How is it going, YouTube? Malagant here. We'll be talking about my Purifier. This is the character that I have created, basically came up with the build as well, right after coming back to Grim Dawn after like a 2-year break or something. And I've decided to play something that's going to be pretty fun for me, so I just came up with this out of nothing. This is definitely not necessarily the best starter character, but it's a good starter character, I could tell you that, because it doesn't necessarily need so many items as I can tell you. The game is a little bit easier to start and get going now when it comes to the fresh account kind of thing, because the recipes, it seems like, even though they're not necessarily maybe drop rates are higher, not necessarily maybe, but there are more resources for you to find these recipes from, especially the totems in the game. So it's definitely easier for you to create almost any character at all that you would like to, and then continue and have something strong, because like you'll most likely have some sort of like a good synergy of good components and good relics, perhaps at the very least, even if you're like very unlucky with the legendaries. In my case, I was kinda unlucky in my opinion, because there are lots of items that I'm going to be showing you if you decide to make this character that I am missing. I don't have them yet in my account, but one thing that I can tell you is that I'm still capable of killing almost any nemesis in the game. Obviously capable of like clearing the key dungeons as well. I am not so confident versus the Morganeth, the latest one. I only fought him once, and I in fact almost died actually. I think the character is not that great against him, but still did kill him. I'm playing on hardcore, so I would have not been able to show this to you if I was dead. I did kill him, but only once, and to be honest with you, I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm not scared to going there again. To Morganeth, that is, I kind of need a little bit more practice, and I think I need this character to be a little bit stronger. But he does have a lot more curve to go for, that's for sure. He's definitely not at the peak at all. If you look at the offensive and defensive ability, that's nothing really. I mean, you have a little bit more when I use the word of renewal, but yeah. So this character's pluses, let's talk about those. It's a very easy character to build. It's an extremely easy character to play, and in my opinion to level up as well, because Black Water Cocktail is really fun to play. It covers like half of your screen almost. It has really high damage if you know how to support it, and at the same time the characters, Demolitionist plus Inquisitor is offering you quite a lot of minus resistances, so it's capable of reaching them quite fast and also destroy every single, even like the flame resistant enemies in the game, quite nicely. The itemization is extremely easy as well, because you're being supported by 2 big MIs throughout the game, as early as Act 2 actually, the shoulders from the Cronley people. I have a very defensive, interesting shoulder here. I think I got pretty lucky. As you can see, it's like not even 2 rare affixes, it's in fact 2 magic affixes, but it ended up giving me something pretty great, because it has very good resistances. It like pierce, poison, chaos, and very high values, and it has 1000 HP on top of that. So this is pretty good. If I wanted another shoulders, like incendiary shoulder plates, that is, I could probably go for something that's extremely offensive, something like 250 burn damage or something, which is also our damage value. We're playing burn more than fire. Definitely burn is there. My damage percentage right now is not necessarily extremely high, but it's pretty good. It's about like 2.5k with like outside the combat, so without the procs and all, like that is still pretty good in my opinion. You are going to be selecting Kaiman, because Kaiman is supporting the fire really good, and especially the Infernal Dust, the augments at the very last bit. If you check it out, the Infernal Dust is insane for burn builds. This is available to you around like level 50, I think. It's absolutely insane for a level 50 character. 100% burn. Black Water Cocktail is going to be, going out of his mind at this point, and it gives you elemental resistances, offensive ability. This is pretty sick. So you should be playing with the Kaiman side. Just that out of the way. Remember that. Another item that is available to you is Zartuzelan's Codex, and this is pretty much like the bread and butter that you want to take. Zartuzelan is, in fact, we're gonna kill him later on when I'm showcasing the character, is the guy that is guarding the gates of Steps of Torment. So just before entering the key dungeon part, it's the priest standing right there. He is not that difficult, to be honest with you, as long as you don't necessarily stand still against his, meteor spam or whatever you call that. It's like a projectile attack that is capable of shotgunning you. And yeah, like it should be pretty easy to kill. One thing to point out though, like Zartuzelan is there from the beginning of the game, and you can probably kill him about like level 30 or something like that, but he will try to, since it's like a, you know, boss of a dungeon, he will try to stay always far ahead when it comes to the levels. Therefore the item that he's going to drop for you is going to be probably quite higher than your level as well. So in my case, I think I went there about like level 35 or something. I was quite excited to go for the offender at that point. But the offense that dropped for me was about like level 46. Luckily, it was a good offense, so I was like, I'm just gonna wait for the level 46. It's alright, I'll just wait and then use it at that point. What the offense does is that it modifies your Black Vodka cocktail. We can read it from here as well. Okay, you can read it from there in Grim Tools, in fact, not there. So right here, it says item skill modifiers, 20 fire damage. We have the burn damage edition. We have the chaos damage converted to fire. So that is basically the key, is why we're using this offhand, is converting entire chaos damage into fire, and we are scaling fire and we're scaling burn. Remember, when you do the conversions, it's also converting the damage over time values as well. So in this case, chaos doesn't necessarily have any damage over time, but if it was like vitality to fire, it would have converted the vitality decay into burn as well. This thing out of the way, also in Grim Dawn you cannot double dip, so since you're converting the chaos damage to fire damage, now you only need fire modifiers. The chaos modifier doesn't necessarily do anything for this skill anymore because there's no chaos damage to begin with. The conversions are always at the beginning, remember that. That out of the way, so how do we level this guy? We're basically going to be maxing out the Black Vodka cocktail. Whenever you feel like it's not hitting so hard, you know, you just rush for Black Vodka cocktail. In fact, I can probably open a new window over here, select demo, so you go for it immediately, you max it out, and then you perhaps go for like Demon Fire a little bit. In my opinion, you should probably take some more stats from the mastery and go for Agonizing Flames, maybe like head to head. What I'm gonna say is that, like, as you feel that you're not that strong anymore, as in like stuff are not getting, you know, one shot, two shots, and it takes a while to kill stuff, then immediately click the high potency. This could be as early as like level 8, or it could be level 15. It kind of depends on your luck, to be honest with you, because in the early game, guys, you know, these percentages are incredibly big, especially if you max your points out. You know, if you put 12 points immediately into this, at the very early game, if you have like 0% fire and burn, then this is going to be kind of weird. But if you have like 50% or like 100%, it's going to be dealing that double the damage of this. Obviously, at only 100%. And you know, it's going to be face rolling. So I cannot really judge if you will have that or not. But when you feel like you could use a little bit more damage, take the high potency node. What the high potency node does is that it's basically going to be putting a cooldown to your Black Vodka cocktail, however modifying its damage quite nicely. So you're going to be dealing more damage, and you'll be able to use the Black Vodka cocktail only every 4 seconds. We're using it in the late game as well, so that's how I play, because we have like other spells, other buttons to press in the meantime anyway, so it synergizes really nicely. While leveling up after the Black Vodka cocktail, you pretty much only need Flame Touch, and this is going to be giving you quite a lot of damage. If you take this, especially early on, as you can see at 12 clicks into this, you're getting 100% fire damage. You're also getting quite a lot of offensive ability, and those values are really nice for an early level character. So let's assume that like we're sitting something like this. What I would probably do is I would probably put 5 points into Blast Shield, not 4, probably 5, simply because of the, you know, the soft spot where like it's scaling up to 4% maximum resistances, and stop right there as well. I'll probably just take this, just probably 1 click into Vindictive Flame, so that like I'm going to be having, you know, 3% total speed coming, like cast speed, attack speed, and movement speed out of nowhere. And it's going to be, you know, regenerating health. It's going to be dealing a little bit of fire damage, but that's kind of nothing. And then from then on, you go for the Inquisitor. And at this point, you're trying to rush for Aura of Censure as soon as possible. So it's going to take you a while to get here, but once you get there, it's going to be feeling amazing. Aura of Censure is incredible for a character like this. It's giving you minus resistance around you. It scales extremely good with you because you have already been going for fire damage. So you will actually at this point gonna start having good fire damage around you. After the Censure, you can also give a couple more points into Vindictive Flame so that like it synergizes between, you know, where a Censure is dealing damage around you, Vindictive Flame will try to do the same. So if you look at my point distribution, I have actually maxed out the Vindictive Flame. It's a leveling up character. I would probably only put 11 points because the total speed starts scaling kind of weird afterwards. It's like missing a couple of points every other click, which is kind of weird while leveling since you're like pretty greedy with your clicks while leveling. 11 points into it is the soft cap in my opinion. So you can wait for like level 100 afterwards. When you feel like you could use more defenses with this guy, it is when you decide to go for Inquisitor Seal. How you're going to be playing is not like you will dump 12 points into it as soon as possible. You will probably see me play as well pretty soon. So you're gonna drop the Inquisitor Seal. You know, you don't necessarily need to be standing exactly in the middle. You could definitely be, as long as you're paying attention to this barrier buff over here, you can definitely be somewhat in the vicinity. Sometimes you can even leave and come back to it and then it will appear again. So you could in fact transition one from the other, or you could drop one quite far away and then stay here a while and then blink to the other side. Excuse me. You could definitely utilize it like this. In fights that are like going for a while, I actually use it like this all the time. Another thing that I'm going to mention is that like this type of in this case, I'm using a Burning Rift. It's also possible to use something called Rising Phoenix, I think. That's extremely good as well if you like the disengage ability. Yeah, Glyph of the Rising Phoenix. This one actually is much more defensive and at the same time much more offensive. The only annoying part about the Rising Phoenix is that like it's a little bit unfortunate the way it works. This is a lot more easier to use simply because it's just blinking towards your cursor. So that is also why I have been using this. But if you're familiar with my Peasant run, I was actually using the Rising Phoenix. You just need to like target exactly the opposite side and then jump, since it's like a disengage effect. The good part about the Rising Phoenix is that it's actually more offensive, as I was saying. This is 37,000 burn damage for me. Obviously that value is not going to be the same for you because you need the same modifiers as I do to reach that far. And yeah, the Glyph of the Burning Rifts, the one that I'm using, is 27. So we're actually missing 10k burn damage value just because of using, you know, Burning Rifts over the Rising Phoenix. So you kind of pick what you like, but you should pick one of those. And then I think it's a good spot for me to explain how the damage over time works in this game. So in this case, we're using Burn, and Burn is our main bread and butter pretty much. How it works is that, so you have Blackwater Cocktail burning an enemy, and then if you have another spell that is capable of burning the enemy as well, so this Blackwater Cocktail's value basically adds up to this other spell. So they start burning together. So if one of them is ticking for 20, the other one is ticking for 20, now basically the monster is ticking for 40. As far as I'm aware, the timers, it doesn't necessarily refresh each other. They all have their own individual timers. So if the Blackwater Cocktail is 4 seconds for 20, well, it has a 20 ticking damage on the targets for 4 seconds. And the other one perhaps is 3 seconds only. So this one is, you know, individually ticking for 3 seconds, but while those 3 seconds are going on, they're ticking for 40 damage. So what you want to do as a burn character or as damage over time is that you want to have as many sources as possible for the same damage over time. So we want to take as many sources of burn damage to the table. We want to bring as many to the table as possible so that like we add these up and then the monster is going to be ticking for a very big amount. So therefore, if you're missing one of the buttons that I have, is going to be, you know, affecting you quite bad in that case. So that's also why you should be using either Burning Rift or Disengage, the Rising Phoenix, and try to like utilize it and, you know, keep it up at the same time. As I said, it's burn damage over 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds kind of versus a big enemy, you should be trying to press this button, definitely. The same thing can be said for the Stormfire. It is adding 12k burn over 3 seconds, as you can see. And then we obviously have the Thermite Mine burn as well. I don't really know if I have more burn. I didn't necessarily like mouse over too much, but I'm kind of curious now. I'm going to check it out. Aura of Sensor is bringing a little bit of burn as well, as you can see. So, let's talk about the devotions a little bit. The way that I leveled it up is, you know, the best part about the Demolitionist's Blackwater Cocktail is that it's bringing you the flat value of reduced target resistances. So even though we are dealing fire damage, we don't necessarily need to go for the Elemental Storm. As you know, most of the time, any type of like elemental damage you level up with, you should probably go for Elemental Storm. In this case, you don't really need to. The Blackwater Cocktail is already bringing it. You don't really need to rush for the -5 resistance at all. For the most part, like up until level 70 or something, you're going to be fine because your damage is going to be very high and the target's resistances are not going to be that high. And what I really dislike about Eldritch Fire is that I don't really find it so reliable, so to speak. I cannot really proc it every time I would like to proc it. In fact, I'm using it with a Thermite Mine, which is yet another minus resistance. In this case, I have 13 points into it. You could put more if you would like to. And that's giving you -27%. The only place that I'm pressing the Thermite Mine with my character is in fact when I'm fighting something big. So if I'm fighting a boss that is quite resistant, I'm putting the Thermite Mines. It's not as, you know, clunky as before. It's actually an instant animation now, so in that case it's extremely nice. And then I'm jumping inside, and then I'm putting a seal. For the most part, this is how it goes. Sometimes I'm also using a flashbang. Most of the time I'm using my flashbang against like quite spammy against small targets, simply because I have a lot of procs in my character. We're gonna talk about that as well. It's much more effective versus the, you know, scattered a lot of enemies compared to like a single target. Versus a single target is extremely good as well, simply because like it's reducing the target's defensive ability, so I get to crit a lot more often. But you don't necessarily need to spam it, you know, you just need to use it once every 6 seconds. That is very easy to do. So you just click it once, and then for 6 seconds he's probably going to die anyways, but if it doesn't, like, you click it one more time. So I have the Thermite Mine, you know, linked to the Eldritch Fire. This also is like kind of the proof that you don't really need the minus resistance from this for the longest time. So while leveling, you don't really need to care about the Eldritch Fire. What I would do while leveling is that I would try to take something like Behemoth, so that like I'm a little bit defensive, and at the same time I would go for the Magi. Magi is pretty good, and you can use the Magi's proc with your Blackwater Cocktail all the way up to, you know, Ulzun's Torch. Now, this being said, so this is my devotion tree from the game. What I'm going to tell right now might actually be a little bit confusing, but don't do exactly the same thing, because this is like, if you think about it, this is kind of like pieces of puzzle, and you need 55 pieces to complete this. What I'm gonna tell you instead is try to rush for Ulzun's Torch while leveling. So I don't necessarily know how many points you need to get there as soon as possible, but it's going to be extremely big for you. You know, the faster you get there, the better. So what you need is like 8 red and 15 green. Don't follow anything else, you know, just check out, you know, what is like good payments for red and green. So Behemoth is good points, Magi is good points, I think Hawk is good points, so perhaps like take it. Spider is really good points as well. And then you're going to need some red, so perhaps Jackal, or perhaps even Vulture. It's kind of up to you. Get to the Ulzun Torch, and basically, you know, link it with Meteor Shower into the Blackwater Cocktail. And then at that point, you can also link your Magi into your Flashbang. They work really good together. After taking this, you can pretty much take anything that you like up until you have 55 points. At that point, you can respec into the build that I have. And if you're having a hard time, you know, fitting things together, you know, how did I build up exactly like this? What you kind of need to do is you need to respec. So some of these abilities, or some of these devotions rather, they're kind of paying back for themselves. For instance, Magi is paying back, you know, 3 green, but it requires 10. So in that sense, you actually only need 7 green, because like you can bait the Magi proc by like a Hawk, for instance. You would have 7 green already. You could put Hawk as well, then you would have 10 green. Magi would be open, you would fill it up. Now you have 13 green, right? So I can respec out of Hawk in that case. So I don't need the Hawk anymore. So I kind of like cheated, and I had only 7 to proc the Magi and complete it. And now I am sitting on 10, which is also the requirement of it. So stuff like that are kind of necessary when we are building the devotion tree. So if you're like kind of confused or not really having an easy time, how did you build this? You kind of need to like bait things into opening, and then when you complete them, they will pay back, and then you'll be able to respec from someplace else. Couple of mentions. I think the Phoenix is extremely good, to be honest with you, because it has burn, it has absorption, it scales incredibly good with your seal on the floor, and at the same time with your blast shield. When things are hitting the fan, basically, when you're in danger, the blast shield procking up, you're sitting inside your seal, and at the same time, most likely you have Phoenix. We have a very high crit chance actually, and on top of that, don't get discouraged by seeing like 2.5k offensive ability, because we have flashbang. Our target is missing 250 defensive ability as well, so it's like 2.8 almost, and then we also have offensive procs as well, so it's going to be about like 3k ish if I have to guess. So this one scales really nice, it synergizes really nice with the seal. It adds the absorption on top of the blast shield, and it adds the absorption on top of the seal on the floor as well. It's incredible in that sense. Another mention is going to be coming to the Dryad. I think I've taken this for like the yellow points that I needed. However, it is, in my opinion, really good. I think that this wasn't like this before. It's giving you flat armor, pretty nice. It reduces the poison and the bleed. That's kind of whatever. Don't really care. But it's also like restores a little bit of health over 10 seconds, and we have like quite a lot of health. 10% of, I'm sitting about like 19,000 health, I think, when I'm buffed and stuff. Yeah, I'm sitting on 19,000 health when I'm buffed, as you can see. So 10% of this is almost 2k. So just another bit of healing that is going on quite nicely all the time almost. It's insane actually. As you can see, it's 10-second duration and 2-second skill recharge. So every time I'm burning rafting, I'm also going to be proccing the Dryad. That's crazy. Alright, I'm not going to be mentioning anything else with the devotions. You can definitely check out the itemization. You don't really need anything but the shoulder and the book. You don't even need the shoulder, to be honest with you, but you could probably find very good shoulders from the cronies throughout like the entire leveling and at the end game as well. My gear, unfortunately, is not great, and I'm going to be mentioning a couple of pieces that you could get to make this character really stronger if you would like to. So one of them is going to be the Seal of the Blazing Inferno. Do not underestimate the duration increase of the damage over time in this game, guys. The way that I explained, if you remember, 3 seconds here, 4 seconds here, or like 5 seconds there, multiple, different individual ticking damage over times, you want to increase these so that like you can refresh them and you can never drop these at all. So the increased duration for the damage over time effects are incredible in this game. Obviously, it's not as valuable as continue stacking it all the time. Not necessarily. For instance, what I'm trying to say is when you reach about like 100 increased duration or something, that's probably enough. You don't need more, because you will either kill your target or you will refresh the damage over time effect anyways. You cannot really play so bad to the point that like you won't be refreshing your damage over time for a 10-second period in an ARPG. That doesn't happen usually. So you don't really need 200% increased duration, but 75% already makes a big difference, trust me. So another mention is going to be Band of the Eternal Pyre. Extremely good, simply because this puts another damage over time effect onto the table, which is called Flame Patch. And the Ring of Flame does the same, and the damage is not bad at all. So I am in fact right now missing 2 different sources of burn. As I explained at the beginning, this is incredibly big. you guys. So another burn effect would be, it depends actually what you want to run. I would probably run the Rune Place of Dignifier because the Wave of Fire proc sounds incredible to me. You could also run a little bit more defensive, Halfor's Leg Plates. So it's kind of up to you. Both of them are incredibly good pens for this. For this build, incredibly good pens. The last thing that I'll mention is that this is like a defensive choice in my opinion. You could go for Ulzrun as well. This is the defensive choice. I would use the gloves of the Cinder Touch because it's extremely good. And I would use 3 piece of Justice sets. I think I can show this on Grim Tools. Yeah, so I am missing the helm basically. So I want to use the helm, I want to use the shoulder guard, I'm missing both of those. And then I want to use the chest. And 3 piece is going to be giving you 120 burn, it's going to be giving you 70 defensive ability, it will be giving you armor absorption, and these items are already extremely defensive and very good values for you. It's actually a ridiculously good set for me. The reason that I'm not using this is because I don't have it. Unfortunately, I don't have the shoulders, I don't have the helm. I could convert these gloves into either one. I can convert them to, you know, either the helm or the shoulder, but I need another piece and I don't have it yet. As you know, the helm is craft, so I need the recipe, or I need, you know, just one more piece to drop so I can convert into them. Another item that I'm missing is the Ulzrun's necklace, which is a very big piece for this guy. Trust me. We're gonna need to wait for the database build up. I thought I did this, apparently I didn't, sorry. Alright, Heart of Ulzrun right there. So this is incredible, you guys. So it basically adds health restore and minus 1.5 second skill recharge to blast shield. So you're going to be basically manning up a little bit further, and obviously it's going to be saving you a lot more the blast shield. On top of that, it gives you +2 Vindictive Flame. Not too bad. Very good burn values. Extremely good necklace, guys, for me, honestly. If you could somehow get the 2 set bonus, I'm not really sure how, but I'm checking. Now there's the Flame Spreader, chest head. So to do this, you would need to, guys, do the Justice with the gloves. So Cinder Touch goes away, you would need to Justice 3 set with the gloves, and then you would do 2 set Ulzrun with either probably the shoulders or maybe the chest piece. You're gonna need to check it out yourself. But both of which would work, and then you would gain, you know, extra fire damage. But to be honest with you, burn is a little bit better, and the burn is on the 3 set. So if you're going for Justice, I would probably just go for Mythical Heart of Ulzrun. Honestly, I wouldn't go for like the 3 piece of the Ulzrun set at all. You could also go for 5 set of Ulzrun and get the crit damage as well, and get the Ulzrun's Vengeance as well, which is another source of burn damage. But as I said, Justice is much more defensive than this set, so it's going to be up to you. But that's a definitely worth mentioning kind of thing. The last item that I will mention, oh, by the way, I probably don't need to say that I'm missing the Heart of Ulzrun as well. I couldn't find it yet. It's the last one that I'll mention is that the mythical Warfire. This thing is crazy also, you guys. The one that I actually found multiple times, this Dracaris, is pretty good. Like, it gives you burn damage, it gives you flame touch, and then it also gives you 4% offensive ability on your flame touch. Very nice, extremely good. But the Warfire is a little bit better. It gives you 100% chance on crit attack to basically lower the fire resistance of your target, which is insane, honestly, because the further down we go with the fire resistance, the better it's gonna get. In this game, you know, there's no stop. It can go all the way up or it can go all the way down, and the further down you go, the better it is, definitely. the target is just going to be susceptible by that much more. So this is like your probably dream weapon to find, which I couldn't find. Recently I have been trying to basically get to like one more Justice piece. The Ulzrun necklace, you know, it's not that necessary. I could still play, but one more Justice piece, as I said, and the Warfire would actually make a massive difference for me. the question you might be asking, okay, but why aren't you using these items? You know, they're pretty good as well. What I like to do is that, like, my character is really strong right now, and I'm going to show it to you right now. I don't really want to swap it one by one, simply because this whole is, like, you kind of want to be keeping your character defensive versus everything, you guys. When you optimize your character, you want it, you know, to have physical resistance, you want it to have good HP, you want it to have good armor absorption, you want it to have all the resistances. So if I replace these rings and put my pens and my gloves, perhaps I'm going to be not looking so great with the elemental resistances, then it's going to be an issue. So how do I fix it? I try fix it, perhaps I'll be able to fix it somehow. But then we are going to be finding a Justice Helm as well. Then I'll change 3 more items, and then there's going to be new problems. So I do enjoy basically, you know, theory crafting something and setting it all together, especially if I'm strong enough. If I wasn't strong enough, I would have used definitely and optimized again. I'm not even playing the game and I'm not strong enough either. Like, I'm stopping and trying to fix stuff what is going wrong to begin with. But since we have good stats right now, I don't really need to, like, rush and use these things, if that makes sense. But they're definitely better items than what I'm using, for sure. So how about to close this video, go to Broken Hills, maybe hit a totem, and maybe go to Zartuzanan as well. Let's do it. Ah, we have an ancient spirit totem there. That's nice. So we go from here then. Guys, people are asking me, like, how come you open the Purifier as your first, you know? If you remember from my other resets, I was playing like a Spellbreaker. It's not even a tanky character at all. I usually, you know, look at the MIs that are available to me. Something like this book. In the Spellbreaker, it was the one-hander mace that was, you know, converting from lightning to cold, I think, for Chosen Skyshard. And I was like dual wielding those. I might actually like make a character like that again, honestly. I really enjoyed that. It's really fun to play. But when I open a character, I don't really enjoy going, like, after a reset, I don't really enjoy going for like this conventional, you know, either a Vitality Caster or a Death Knight with the Craig set, or a Fizz Craig set also is possible, obviously, since it's like targetable. Yeah. It's much easier to get there and then have, you know, your entire set for you. That was a very underwhelming drop, by the way. What just happened? But as you can see, let me actually, like, talk about what I am pressing as we are going, because it might be overwhelming to, or intimidating to see how many buttons I have. I'm definitely not pressing all of that. So we have my, you know, 5th button, which is the renewal. I'm just pressing it every now and then to keep the renewal up. Versus peasants, I like to call them. I just flashbang, guys. Everything dies. You just flashbang, everything dies. Trust me. Like, the amount of procs that we have from the devotions, or the amount of, you know, damage that is around me with the Vindictive Flame or of Censure, it's so great. It's enough, definitely. So if it took a while, it's because I didn't blink in. I blink in, I flashbang. Well, we have an elite here, so I'm gonna put a seal, and then I'm gonna right click, which is my Black Vulture Cocktail. In this case, he will still die, but I can still top this damage off by pressing more buttons. I'll show you next. So blink in, flashbang, and they're probably dead, honestly. So the way that I play normally is basically, when I find an elite, okay, so I drop down my Thermite Mine, I put a Black Vulture Cocktail on top of it, and then I start spamming my Stormfire. Stormfire is the component that you put onto your weapon or your offhand. It's kind of up to you which one you do. It gives you the ability of Stormfire. It's called Seal of Destruction, and it is also proccing my Phoenix, as you remember. So this is a good synergy in that sense, because so far I didn't mention the Stormfire at all. So versus the peasants, we are actually not proccing this the Phoenix. But the second that we engage something relevant, then I'm going to be proccing my Phoenix as well, if you think about it. So that's really good in that sense. So far, since I don't press Stormfire, you know, there's no Phoenix. And I don't really need the Phoenix while I'm, you know, killing peasants. I need it to be defensive when I engage something and manning up. Because manning up, if you remember, pays a lot for this guy because of the sensor. So now I'm just spamming Stormfire basically. So maybe 3 seconds passed. Okay, let me Flashbang one more time. Let me Black Vulture Cocktail one more time. Let me Thermite Mine one more time. And then Stormfire again. It continues that way. But versus peasants, just Flashbang, honestly. Not even worth pressing anything else. Sometimes you can put Black Vulture Cocktail as well, obviously. While leveling, it will most likely be, you know, Black Vulture Cocktail heavily, because you obviously want to have the damage that I have around me. You need everything coming together to be able to have this like aura damage that's going on around you. It's kind of sad that I couldn't find Moosey. Moosey would have been nice for this video. Oh, if anybody is curious about the swirly effect around my character also, it is coming from my rings. You will most likely find my rings in the description below as well if you are curious about them. They're craftable. Mythical Ruby and Sapphire of Elemental Balance. I use it quite a bit on elemental characters. They're really good for like screen clear for peasants, but they're not that great at all for late game. So if you have a character that is like incredible, it's probably not running these rings. In fact, I already showed you 2 other rings, but they are really beautiful. Alright, so versus Azuzalan, this guy is actually pretty defensive against us, since he's complete fire as well. So Thermite Mine, Black Vulture Cocktail, you know, the seal, and then we spam, we blink into him again for the burn, and then we spam Stormfire again. As I said, he actually died really fast and he dropped the Codex. Codex is the one that we need. It's Destroyer's Scorching. Are we lucky here even? Destroyer sounds really good to me. 450 burn damage, you guys, okay? And has a little bit of physical resistance even. So, right here, I just gained, let me tell you this. I've just gained 470 burn damage. I have about like 295, 300, 170 burn damage out of nowhere. That this is what is going on the screen right now. It's an incredible drop for me. Very good drop for me. Wow. Pretty good. I'll check this out on stream tomorrow. It's gonna be funny. I'm gonna show to the viewers as well, and then decide if I'm gonna use it or not. It looks like we're gonna need to use it though. I'm only dropping like 4% physical resistance. We seem to be dropping, if you pay attention, we seem to be dropping some casting speed as well. But it's not the biggest thing for me, as we are not really casting all that much. I mean, we are casting quite a bit, but it doesn't necessarily increase our damage so much as long as we manage to keep our burns on our targets. So we don't really have the direct damage per se. The video is already 40 minutes. I have no idea like how to make a guide. No clue. I really hope this was useful. If you have any questions at all about the guide, anything at all, if you enjoyed the character, if you would like to make a character like this, and if you would like some, you know, guidance about it, feel free to drop by my Twitch. I stream pretty much every day, from afternoon time for Europe, twitch.tv/Malagant. I also have, you know, regular updates and content on my YouTube as well, so subscribe if you enjoyed the video, if you managed to survive for 40 minutes of this madness. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace out.